Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari. Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari. Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadari. Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadara Shivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Panchakalpatarubhyascha, Vipassinubhya evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you so much for coming to listen from the beautiful Bhagavatam. And before starting, I would like to request everybody, especially our seniors, to give me their blessings so that I can say something substantial, something bona fide that could be on use in our spiritual path. Today we're exploring the fourth canto, fourth chapter, 28th verse of the Śrimad Bhāgavatam. Let's chant together. Please repeat after me. Verse 28. Tat Pashyatam Ke Bhuvi Chadbhutam Mahad Ha Eti Vadaha Sumahan Ajayata Anta Priya Daivatamasya Devi Jahav Asun Kena Sati Prakopita Tatpashyatam Ke Bhuvi Chadvutam Mahad Aheti Vada Sumahan Ajayata Anta Priya Devatamasya Devi Jahav Asun Kena Sati Prakopita. Gentlemen, please chant. Tad Pashyantam Ke Bhuvi Chadvutam Mahad Aheti Vadaha Samahan Ajayata Anta Priya Daivatamasiya Devi Jahav Asunkena Sati Prakopita Tatpashyatam Ke Bhuvichat Bhutam Mahad Aheti Vada Samahan Ajayata Anta Priya Daivatamasiya Devi Jahav Asunkena Sati Prakopita. Now please chant individually. Tatpashyatam Ke Bhuvichat Bhutam Mahad Nahiti vada sumahat ajayata. Anta priyadaiva damasya devi. Jahav asunkena sati prakopita. Tatpasyatam ke bhuvichat bhutam mahal. Yahiti vada samahan ajayitam. Anta priyadaiva damasya devi. Jahav asunkena sati prakopita. Anybody else? Tatpasyatam ke bhuvichat bhutam mahal. Maheti vada sumahan ajayate. Anta priyadai vatamasya devi. Jahav asunkena sati prakopita. Ladies? Okay, let's do translation word by word. Tat, that. Pashyatam, of those who had seen. Ke, in the sky. Bhuvi, on the earth. Cha, and. Adbhutam, wonderful. Mahat, great. Aha, oh. Iti, thus. Vadaha, roar. Tumahan, tumultuous. Ajayata, cured. Anta, alas. Priya, the beloved. Daivatamasya, of the most respectable demigod. Lord Shiva. Devi, Sati. Jahau, quit. Asun, her life. Kena, by Daksha. Sati, Sati. Prakopita, angered. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki. When Sati annihilated her body in anger, there was a tumultuous roar all over the universe. Why had Sati, the wife of the most respectable demigod, Lord Shiva, quit her body in such a manner? There was a tumultuous roaring all over the universe in the societies of the demigods of different planets, because Sati was the daughter of Daksha, the greatest of all kings, and the wife of Lord Shiva, the greatest of all demigods. Why did she become so angry that she gave up her body? Since she was the daughter of a great personality and wife of a great personality, she had nothing to desire, but still she gave up her body in dissatisfaction. Certainly, this was astonishing. One cannot attain complete satisfaction even if one is situated in the greatest material opulence. There was nothing Sati could not achieve either from her relationship with her father or from her relationship with the greatest of the demigods. But still, for some reason, she was dissatisfied. Therefore, Śrimad Bhāgavatam 126 explains that one has to achieve real satisfaction. Yayatma suprasidati. But Atma, the body, mind, and soul all become completely satisfied only if one develops devotional service to the Absolute Truth. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adokshaje. Adokshaja means the Absolute Truth. If one can develop his unflinching love for the transcendental Supreme Personality of Godhead, that can give complete satisfaction. Otherwise, there is no possibility of satisfaction in the material world or anything else. Translation once again. When Sati annihilated her body in anger, there was a tumultuous roar all over the universe. Why had Sati, the wife of the most respectable demigod, Lord Shiva, quit her body in such a manner? A very nice little purport here explaining a very interesting phenomenon which is occurring very often in the material world, especially nowadays, in the midst of the Kali Yuga, which is the sentiment of anger. People are constantly getting angry for so many things. And anger, it's a very, very peculiar emotion that exists in our hearts. Everybody has felt it at least a little bit in his life, unless he's maybe a true saint. You know, saints don't get angry too much in general. We hear about anger perhaps in a very, very explanatory manner in the Bhagavad Gita, in the second chapter, where Krishna explains the chain of succession, how we become angry and then what happens afterwards. In the verse 262, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsa Sangas Teshupajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamad Krodu Bijayate. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. So, anger is the natural consequence of lust. And lust is there because we're in the material world. Because lust is the perverted reflection of love, of real love. So when the living entity becomes covered by material nature, when his consciousness gets in contact with this world, then naturally that original propensity to love and serve the Lord becomes a natural propensity to exploit the world, to bring everybody down, to be envious of God, and to lust. And lust is like a blazing fire. It's never satisfied. And the more fuel you put inside of it, the more the fire is burning. And the more you become dissatisfied instead of becoming satisfied. It's very interesting, you know. One would say, okay, the more you bring in and the more full you will be. But actually, the more you bring in and the more empty you become. And then what happens? Frustration, disease, mental disease, you know, madness. It's pure madness. Everybody is mad in this world to a certain extent. Even those who are reputed as normal, even they are mad, just a little bit, you know. And then you have those who are in the madhouse, who are completely mad. Why? Because they have given themselves completely to lust and they haven't been able to control it, and it has gone out of control to a very, to a gigantic proportion. So when lust becomes satisfied, actually, if we ever try to satisfy it, then it becomes greed. Then we want more. So factually, it's never satisfied because of that. And then greed brings more, and then more greed, and more, and more. And we have seen it also in the world. We have seen it in our lives, how we're greedy for so many things. We're greedy for material possessions. We're greedy for attention. We're greedy for prestige. You know, it's always there, always there. When lust is present, then greed will come. But if we don't satisfy our lust, then what happens is anger arises. This is when the, the famous emotion comes about, because we want things to be our way. Why we want? Because ahankara vimudatma. Ahamkara. I am the car and I'm driving and I want everything to happen exactly as I have planned it, and I want it now. And if it doesn't come now, you better run away from me, because I'm gonna smack you in the face because I want my candies. So yes, it's the world of gods, very angry gods who are trying to obtain the supreme position. And there is the famous Jivo Jivasya Jivanam. There is the law of nature that, everybody's fighting for supremacy and those who are the strongest prevail. And so many gods around are getting angry at themselves and are trying to bring everybody else downwards, so that I can be the supreme ruler. This is the nature of the material world. It's a world where everybody's trying to destroy the competition. And for example, nowadays, the capitalistic society is the epitome of this principle. Divide and conquer, just earn the capital for the expense of others, just corporations, how they're exploiting their employees, and just carelessly, and we can see in the world there's so much disparity. The elite, the 1% who is on the top, and then the rest, like 99% of people, are so poor in comparison. Even those who are so-called rich, middle class, even they're poor, because everybody is, because there are just a couple of people who are possessing everything. Enough about that. Yes, so anger is a very destructive emotion that has to be regulated, has to be harnessed. That's why we're here in the temple. Ultimately, devotional service, ultimately, real knowledge results in refined character, in spiritual culture. Acquiring the book knowledge, the gyan, is just one side of the coin. But then actually putting it into practice, then that's what's completing the whole equation, and that's what is bringing the real deal to the table, when we actually are living the Bhāgavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. So it takes contemplation, introspection, it takes sadhana bhakti, waking up early in the morning. It takes services that inspire us, just like Keshava Maharaj says, services that we dedicate for the mission. And also we have to do services that are, unpleasant many times, sacrifice some menial service here and there, wash the pots, wash the floors. And all this whole package is actually curbing our lower tendencies, especially the one to get angry, because the more and more we practice and the more and more we realize that we're not the controller, and there is no real reason to get angry because everything is taken care of. Not even a single blade of grass moves without the sanction of Krishna, so why worry? Krishna is always backing me up. And we can see the lives of the devotees are so beautiful. If you just go with the flow, Krishna organizes everything. He is the supreme omniscient, so he knows our hearts better than ourselves even. He's there. He's deeper in our heart than we are, because we have become so disconnected. Our consciousness is very superficial, is on the material plane, so we're trying to enjoy candy and stuff. But Krishna knows. So the more we practice, the more we discuss among ourselves, the more we read, the more we listen, the more we chant, And the more this propensity to exploit material nature and to get angry for no reason just gets dissolved into the fire of bhakti, you know. The more you increase the fire, the intensity, just like the Yoga Dharma devotees are doing, you know, every day, just trying to, you know, increase more and more and do 8 hours and then 12 hours and then 24 hours of kirtan, because that's how you burn everything, you know, the fire. Instead of having the blazing fire of lust, you have to have the blazing fire of bhakti. And, you know, even if you put iron inside, the iron will acquire the qualities of fire. It will become fire. Nothing can stand the fire of bhakti. Don't tell Krishna how big are your problems. Tell your problems how big is Krishna. This is the formula. So we have to be faithful and continue in the process. And then, yes, anger, it's a very destructive emotion. We have to always check it. It is said that actually for a Brahmana, it is worse to fall for anger than for sex life. Because anger is the destroyer of relationships. You might have built a relationship your entire life, and then anger can actually destroy it pretty quickly. We have seen that maybe in our families. I've seen it in my own family, how my parents are quarreling for very their nefariousness. You have to defend yourself. It is explained in the Shastras that whenever you get attacked, you shouldn't be defending yourself. You know, even Jesus Christ said, if you slap me on, if they slap you on the cheek, you know, give them the other one. You shouldn't be defending yourself, you know, if somebody is criticizing you. No need, you know. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Defending, you know, that's one of the most prominent one, actually. So we should let our guard down and let whatever is due come our way. When devotees are criticizing us, when some you know, uncomfortable situation comes our way, we have to, you know, embrace it because it's good, because it's part of our karma. We have to learn something. But there are 6 cases where we can actually defend ourselves. When somebody is attacking with deadly weapons, when somebody is trying to set fire on our home, when somebody is trying to harm the wife, and then what were the other ones? When somebody is administering poison, 4, there were 2 more. I don't remember them. Stealing your wealth, sharp weapons. Yeah, I said that. Deadly weapons. And I think if you're a professional boxer, I think your fists are considered deadly weapons. So you can you know, bring out the gun in that case. So besides that, it's all right. We shouldn't get angry. We shouldn't be using our anger. But if somebody is attacking us in that manner, anger is actually has its proper use. So one can use that. And especially in our case, as devotees, actually, we can use anger to defend our fellow friends and devotees. That is the best way to use anger. When somebody else is attacking physically another devotee, we're actually we're supposed to. It's our duty to respond. Of course, always best is to try to neutralize the situation, you know, and make it less damaging as possible. But in certain occasions, you know, you just have to do the needful, and that's why we have, you know, people who are guarding the reception, you know, and stuff, because it's necessary. And here we see how Sati, she quit her body because she was defending her husband, apparently. It is explained in the Nectar of Devotion, if I'm not mistaken, that when one should never tolerate an offense towards a devotee. If in our presence somebody says that blasphemes another devotee, one has to either just dismiss that person by explaining to him that this is improper, just defend the devotee in that manner, or one has to walk away, or the third option, one has to give up his body, one has to suicide. So apparently this is what happened here, and she had also other reasons from my understanding to give up her body. She didn't want her own body to be associated, her true self to be associated with the dynasty of Daksha because of what happened. And she's a demigoddess, she can get another body, and that's what happens. Actually, she becomes Parvati in her next incarnation. Parvati means the daughter of the Himalayas. And then she comes back to Shiva because they are eternally related. So her giving up her body was symbolic, and we understand it in that matter. And then Prabhupada is explaining how, even though in that exalted position where you have everything, you are the god of all the gods, basically, of the material world, and still there is dissatisfaction. So this is the nature of the material world. Even Brahma, even the greatest demigods are, ultimately unhappy, even though they're enjoying heavenly pleasures, sensual pleasures, but they don't give real happiness. It's never satisfying. Material happiness in this world, even when we get it, is like eating sweet rice with a little bit of salt, a little bit of grainy salt, not salt, sand within. And you're like eating, and it's like in your teeth. And personally, I've been realizing this more and more throughout my years. It's just, my heart is still there. I still want to enjoy the world. I understand intellectually that, it's not good. One shouldn't be doing it. But the heart is still, has attachments, wants to enjoy the world, and you do it again and again, and then you can clearly see how there's so much anxiety, in spending money, in navigating the world, trying to figure out your situation. Even in the brahmacharya ashram, as a brahmachari, you acquire brahminical qualities, you get knowledge, and prestige is there, and you're enjoying many times, and you're like, but then it's not real happiness. When we are taking it for ourselves, it's not, doesn't work, never works, and it always ends in frustration. Dharma, artha, kama, and then moksha. Everybody looks for liberation, because even if we follow perfectly our dharma, even if we're the most exalted demigod, our life will ultimately end in frustration. Vanity of all vanities, said Kohelet in Ecclesiastes, as Jadvaita Maharaj has been reminding us so many times already. People are working every day under the sun, and then what? Just vapor, zero. So many zeros, yes, and even intellectual pursuit, even philosophical pursuit, it's ultimately, you're gonna lose everything. What's the point of speculating on so many things if you don't come to the ultimate conclusion that you have to serve God? And if you don't do that, anything less than that, anything less than full surrender to Krishna is not gonna give you anything. It's just illusion. Anything less than that, even 99.9%, is just material life, birth, death, old age, and disease. So what else is left to do than to just push ourselves more and more on the path of bhakti and surrender more and more to the process, to the etiquette, to the Vaishnava etiquette, and try to satisfy our seniors and pray to Krishna for more. Try to execute our devotional service with one-pointed attention Vyavasayatmika buddhihi. Why so many branches in the material world? And just focus on the simple tasks which are aimed to please the devotees and the Supreme Lord. Because there's nothing else there, even, Brahma. Every living entity has been a Brahma in this world, the Supreme Controller. But nevertheless, the overpowering agency of the material nature is so strong that even the greatest, the most pious living entity gradually degrades and even goes to hell, and then it goes back and then back, like this. Samsara, billions of lifetimes. But now, the golden chance because of the golden avatar of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And not only that, but his direct Senapati Bhakta, his general, who was just here 60 years ago, who gave us everything. Such a great opportunity to surrender. This is what I wanted to share with you, dear devotees. Now is the time for questions, comments, remarks. If somebody wants to make a contribution, maybe Ram Roy Prabhu. Narada Muni Prabhu.
I was thinking about, you were talking about how anger pervades the body, and it actually, in fact, impacts the body, and even material scientists are finding that. Like, I remember when I was studying psychology in school, they talk about how, for example, you have traumas, you have emotions that actually manifest physically in the body. So someone, like, for example, has a heart disease, or someone has some type of problem in their back, they actually ask them, how much stress do you have? Like, what are your emotional responses like in the world, like in the daily world? How angry do you get? All these things. So it's important to know that also, like, we can be conscious of those things when, that anger is coming, or you're having something. You can actually think about, like, what is my subtle state also? What am I thinking about? It's a nice thing as devotees to be conscious of that. So it's a nice point. I was also thinking about the demigods and how they have, like, it's like they attain this position of piety, of artha in some sense, in performing dharma. But actually they're in more anxiety than we are, because they're fearing themselves. It's actually said that they're also fearing themselves losing their position. And so that's why it's said that demigods are waiting in line to take birth into Lord Chaitanya's movement, because the human form of life is the perfect opportunity to restrain ourselves, because it's like the perfect amount of salt within this process of, getting to a deeper sense of spiritual realization without having too many things going on and too little to deprive us of anything to push us forward. So I'm just meditating on what can I do, I think maybe that's something we can all meditate on today, is what can we do to improve our condition in the human form of life today, and doing that day by day. I was thinking about that when you were saying that, so thank you.
Welcome. Yeah. It is explained how Kali Yuga is the perfect backdrop for the Sankirtan movement, because the Sankirtan movement, on the face of so many atrocities and discord, shines even brighter. So it's a great blessing actually to be born in these times. We have the perfect amount of salt and just unfavorable situations which will help us actually to propel ourselves on the path of bhakti. And in connection to your first comment, it's interesting actually how many medical practitioners, doctors, whatnot, in the modern setting, they do understand actually these things, even though in the science they don't study deeply, because they don't go beyond the gross, but still they understand, they can see it, and they tell you, because they're doctors, they want to help you. But if we see in Ayurveda, for example, these things are all interconnected and directly correlated. It all comes from, being in rajas, in tamas, understanding the modes in the Bhagavad Gita, how they function, and then this is directly correlated to the doshas in the body, rajas, pitta. Like when you have a lot of rajas, you become hungry, and then excessive hunger also kind of can ruin your stomach. It directly affects your liver. Heart diseases from anger, all these things, cardiovascular diseases, and it all starts from the emotion. The emotion is kind of burning the body from within, and it's very interesting. So just by keeping cool, like Prabhupada said, cool-headed, be cool-headed. Just chant your rounds, and you won't be so angry. Do devotional service, and that's the ultimate solution. That's the ultimate panacea. This is the medicine for every disease, for every problem. And yeah, it's very fascinating how just by managing your emotion, managing your desires, you can obtain perfect health, and that's it. You're good. Ramroy Prabhu wants to share something.
Hope we have enough battery power.
For now.
For now.
Okay. Nice how you gave both corresponding to anger, which is detrimental, and anger, how it could be useful. Just in the last few days here in New York City, someone stabbed somebody to death in a deli over an argument over who was in line first. So for an extra 5 or 10 minutes of waiting in line, you trade that for life in prison without parole.
Wow.
Or that somebody asked somebody on the subway to turn down their boombox, and that earned the person to get stabbed. So crazy things are. So Narottam Das Thakur, he says in Prema Bhakti Chandrika how we can use anger in the Lord's service and anger against the non-devotees. I think things are so, if someone blasphemes a devotee verbally, we have to be very careful, at least in public, how we react with that. One time I went to the police, and there were these like really fanatical Christians, just like right in our face. And you're going to hell, you're demons, Hare Krishna is this, that, the other thing. So I went to the police, and you know what the police said? You have a right to free speech, and they have a right to free speech. That's their free speech. I'm saying, but it's insightful, it's et cetera, et cetera. It is long. We can't do anything unless somebody physically assaults the other person.
Yeah.
So, Hare Krishna. The spiritual master, Prabhupada would say, it is a duty of the spiritual master to chastise the disciple, to correct him. So we could say that maybe the spiritual master becomes angry because we did something wrong or neglectful. His Holiness Satsvarup Maharaj became Prabhupada's servant for 6 months in 1974. And one of the duties of the servant is to help Srila Prabhupada answer his mail. So Prabhupada was writing to Guru Das, who at that time was the temple president overseeing the construction of the Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan. And in that correspondence, Prabhupada said, I will include this document or this other letter, something. And then Guru Das, in due course of time, wrote back that this letter wasn't enclosed. the document wasn't enclosed. So Prabhupada called in Satsuru Maharaj and said, "What is this? I wrote a letter saying that this is enclosed and it's not enclosed. What is the explanation?" And Satsuru Maharaj he remembers the incident, and he just overburdened, at least he thought, with many devotees. He just didn't think it was important and neglected to insert the document. And he just said to Prabhupada, "Well, I guess I forgot." And Prabhupada got more angry. "Why did you forget?" You know, and then, feeling the anger of the spiritual master, what to speak of Srila Prabhupada, it really puts you on the spot. And then he's like looking deep in his heart, and he started crying and said, "It's because I don't value our relationship, and I don't, I'm not, he's just saying all these things." And Prabhupada, you'd think that, oh, okay. So he didn't let him off the hook. He got more angry. "Why did you do it?" And then Satsuru Maharaj says, you can read it in his book, Life of the Perfect Master. It's a diary that he kept during that time. "Then my intelligence started working. And I sobered up, I stopped crying, and I said, well, I could find the document that you want, and I could send it to Guru Das with an explanation that I forgot to enclose." And immediately Prabhupada gave up all his anger and said, "Do it immediately." And that was it. So, like you were mentioning, and the family members become angry and harsh words, and then the next day, and then the relationship is spoiled. But the anger of a
Yeah.
devotee, a spiritual master, is that it's truly constructive criticism. And all devotees account that, Prabhupada would correct the situation, steer you right, and wouldn't refer to it again himself. And if others tried to refer to the devotee's previous mistake or misbehavior, Prabhupada would not entertain it at all. So I'm sorry to indulge everyone going so long here, but this is a very nice section in the chapter Swami Invites the Hippies, from the volume 3 Leelamrita, where Prabhupada came to the freewheeling Wild West Haight-Ashbury Summer of Love in 1967 to open up the second temple in ISKCON. So I'm going to read a couple of incidents and how Prabhupada dealt with it. And then there's a very nice, insightful memory of Haridas, Harvey Cohn, who was one of Prabhupada's very first disciples, who gave Prabhupada his Bowery loft to move into, where Prabhupada preached very nicely for 2 months before moving to 26 Second Avenue. As for challenges, almost every night someone would come to argue with Prabhupada. One man came regularly with prepared arguments from a philosophy book from which he would read aloud. Prabhupada would defeat him, and the man would go home, prepare another argument, and come back again the next day. One night, after the man had presented his challenge, Prabhupada simply looked at him without bothering to reply. Prabhupada's neglect was another defeat for the man, who got up and left. Israel, like Rabbit was this, like a pig pen from Charlie Brown, completely filth caked, dirty hippie, was another well-known Haight-Ashbury character. He had a long ponytail and often played the trumpet during the kirtan. After one of Prabhupada's evening lectures, Israel challenged, "This chanting may be nice, but what will it do for the world? What will it do for humanity?" Prabhupada replied, "Are you not in the world? If you like it, why will others not like it? So you chant loudly." A mustached man standing at the back of the room asked, "Are you Allen Ginsberg's guru?" Many of the devotees knew the question was loaded, that to answer either yes or no would be difficult. Srila Prabhupada replied, "I am nobody's guru, I am everybody's servant." To the devotees, the whole exchange became transcendental due to Swamiji's reply. Swamiji had not simply given a clever response, he had answered out of a deep, natural humility. And there's many, many other things listed here. It's quite amazing to see how Prabhupada dealt with it. So here, Haridas. I used to watch how Swami would handle things. It wasn't easy. To me, that was a real test of his powers and understanding. How to handle these people, I got it. Not to alienate or antagonize or stir them up to create more trouble. He would turn their energy so that before they knew it, they were calm, like when you pat a baby and it stops crying. Swamiji had a way of doing things with words, with the intonation of his voice, with his patience to let them carry on for a certain period of time, let them work it out, act it out even. I guess he realized that devotees couldn't say, listen, when you come to the temple, you can't behave this way. It was a delicate situation there. Often someone would say, I am God. They would get an insight or hallucination from their drugs. They would try to steal the spotlight. They wanted to be heard, and you can feel an anger against the Swami from people like that. Sometimes they would speak inspired and poetic for a while, but they couldn't sustain it, and their speech would simply become gibberish. And the Swami was not one to simply pacify people. He wasn't going to coddle them. He would say, what do you mean? If you are God, then you have to be all knowing. You have to have the attributes of God. Are you omniscient and omnipotent? He would then name all the characteristics that one would have to be an avatar, to be God. He would rationally prove the person wrong. He had superior knowledge, and he would rationally explain to them, if you are God, can you do this? Do you have this power? Sometimes people would take it as a challenge and would try to have a verbal battle with the Swami. The audience's attention would then swing to the disturbing individual, the person who was grabbing the spotlight. Sometimes it was very difficult. I used to sit there and wonder, how is he going to handle this guy? This one is really a problem. But Swamiji was hard to defeat. Even if he couldn't convince the person, he convinced the other people in the crowd so that the energy of the room would change and would tend to quiet the person. Swamiji would win the audience by showing them that this person didn't know what he was talking about, and the person would feel the vibrations of the room change, that the audience was no longer listening or believing his spiel, and so the person would sit down and shut up. So Swamiji would remove the audience rather than the person. He would do it without crushing the person. He would do it by superior intelligence, but also with a lot of compassion. When I saw him do these things, then I realized he was a great teacher and a great human being. He had the sensitivity not to injure a person physically or emotionally, so that when the person sat down and shut up, he wouldn't be doing it in defeat or anger. He wouldn't be hurt. He would just be outwitted by the Swami. So we should try to be like that as far as possible.
Mm.
Thank you so much, Ramroy Prabhu.
Thank you, Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you for bringing up that point, which is very, very important. Actually, I had it in my notes, but I forgot to speak about it. How the anger of the spiritual master is transcendental, and it's actually not coming from a selfish part of the heart. And we have so many examples of how Prabhupada was actually super angry at devotees, and then next moment he was like completely different person, just blissed out, and it was just for the purpose of correcting somebody. So only a transcendental person can do
Finally opened, um, only then did Srila Prabhupada speak kindly and lovingly about the accomplishment of Sarabi Maharaj at the time. Whereas up to that point, it was constantly on him and just like no relief in sight for months and months.
this. Yeah.
And then Prabhupada said, it is my duty to chastise the disciple, but Sarabi has done very, very nicely. And he instructed that on the if you look in the Krishna Balaram Mandir in the back where I think they removed them now, the Prashadam stall, the book. Anyway, the back of the temple room on the Radhashama Sundar's side, you'll see the cornerstone there, and Sarabi Maharaj's name, Surabir Palayantam Swami, his name is he's given credit.
So we wrap it up. Grantaraj Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki Gaura Premanand.
Matanga Prabhu ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.